The rain-slicked streets of Willow Creek gleamed under the neon glow of the diner's sign. But I barely noticed. My heart was a war drum, pounding as I caught his scent sandalwood and storm, sharp enough to cut through the chaos of my thoughts. Ethan Caldwell, the alpha every soul in this town worshipped, was staring at me again, his eyes burning holes through the crowd. I'm Noah Ellis, an Omega who spent his life dodging attention in this small, conservative corner of Oregon. In a world where alphas rule and Omegas like me are expected to bow, I've learned to keep my head down. But Ethan makes that impossible. He's the captain of the university's lacrosse team, heir to the Caldwell logging empire, and the kind of alpha who could have anyone. Yet, for reasons I can't fathom, his gaze always finds me, like I'm the only one in the room. Tonight, I was just trying to grab a coffee at Millie's Diner, my usual escape from the dorms. The place was packed with students celebrating the team's latest win, their laughter loud enough to drown out the jukebox. I tucked myself into a corner booth, sketching in my notebook habit that keeps my anxiety at bay. That's when I felt it, the weight of his stare. Across the room, Ethan leaned against the counter. His broad shoulders relaxed, but his eyes locked on me. It wasn't the casual glance of curiosity. It was hunger, raw and unapologetic, and it sent a shiver down my spine. I ducked my head, pretending to focus on my sketch of the diner's retro sign. My pencil trembled. Why me? I'm not like the other Omegas who flaunt their charm, batting lashes to catch an alpha's eye. I'm the kid who wears oversized hoodies, who stumbles over words when nervous, who's never even been kissed. Yet Ethan's attention feels like a spotlight I can't escape. Hey, Noah. His voice, low and smooth, startled me. I looked up to find him sliding into the booth across from me, his lacrosse jacket slung over one shoulder. Up close, his presence was overwhelming, 6 feet of muscle, dark hair falling into his eyes, and that scent that made my instincts scream to lean closer. I couldn't. Hi, I mumbled, clutching my pencil like a lifeline. Congrats on the game. He smirked, but it wasn't cocky. It was soft, almost private. You watched. I hadn't. I'd heard the cheers from my dorm window. Heard you crushed it, I said, dodging the question. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, his gaze pinning me in place. You should come to the next one. I'd play better knowing you're there. My breath caught. Was he flirting? No, that was impossible. Alphas like Ethan didn't flirt with Omegas like me. They went for the polished ones, the ones who knew how to navigate this Omegaverse hierarchy. I was just me. Before I could respond, the diner door swung open, and a group of Ethan's teammates stormed in, their laughter cutting through the moment. Leading them was Marcus, another alpha, all sharp jawline and sharper ambition. His eyes flicked to me, then Ethan, and a smirk curled his lips. Caldwell, slumming it already. Thought you'd be celebrating with someone shinier. The table of betas nearby snickered, and my cheeks burned. I wanted to sink into the floor. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away from me. Mind your own business, Marcus, he said, his voice low but laced with warning. Marcus raised his hands, mock surrender, but his eyes gleamed with something darker. Just looking out for you, man. Don't want you wasting your time. The words stung, but I was used to it. Omegas like me quit. Unremarkable were always wastes of time in this town. I started gathering my things, ready to bolt. But Ethan's hand shot out, gently catching my wrist. His touch was warm, electric, and I froze. "Stay?" he said, so quiet it was almost a whisper. "Please." I stared at him, heart racing. No one had ever looked at me like that, like I was worth something. But Marcus's words echoed in my head, and the diner's noise felt like a cage closing in. I pulled my wrist free, mumbling an excuse about a deadline, and fled into the rain. Outside, the cold bit at my skin, but it was nothing compared to the storm inside me. Ethan's touch lingered, a ghost on my wrist. I didn't understand why he cared, why he kept seeking me out. All I knew was that every time he did, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, thrilling, terrifying, and dangerously addictive. The next morning, I woke to a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the lake tonight. 8 p.m. My stomach flipped. The lake was Willow Creek's hidden gem, a quiet spot where the forest met the water, far from prying eyes. I should have ignored it. I should have stayed away. But something about Ethan pulled me in. Like gravity, I couldn't fight. By dusk, I was there, standing on the shore, the water reflecting the last streaks of sunset. Ethan arrived moments later, his motorcycle rumbling to a stop. He wore a leather jacket, his hair mussed from the ride. And when he saw me, his face lit up with a smile that made my knees weak. "You came," he said, stepping closer. His scent enveloped me, and I fought the urge to close the distance between us. "Why me?" I blurted, my voice shaking. "You could have anyone. Ethan. Why do you keep looking at me?" He stopped, his expression softening. "Because you're real, Noah. You don't play games. You don't pretend to be something you're not. And when I'm around you," he hesitated, running a hand through his hair, "I can't think about anything else." My heart stuttered. No one had ever said anything like that to me. But before I could respond, a rustle in the trees made us both freeze. Marcus stepped into the clearing, his grin cold and predatory. "Well, isn't this cozy?" he said, his voice dripping with mockery. The Alpha Prince and his little Omega pet. Ethan stepped in front of me, his body tense. "Back off, Marcus." But Marcus just laughed, his eyes glinting with malice. "You think you can just claim him, Caldwell? You think the town's gonna let their golden boy throw it all away for him?" The words hit like a punch, but Ethan didn't flinch. He grabbed my hand, his grip firm, and pulled me toward his bike. "We're done here," he growled. But as we turned to leave, Marcus's voice followed us, low and venomous. "You'll regret this, Ethan. Both of you will." The next week was a blur of stolen glances and whispered warnings. Ethan found me everywhere outside my literature class, at the library where I worked part-time, even at the coffee shop where I sketched during breaks. Each time, his presence was a quiet rebellion against the town's unspoken rules. Alphas like him didn't chase Omegas like me. Not publicly. Not without consequences. But Ethan didn't seem to care. One night, he convinced me to sneak out to the lake again. Under the stars, with the water lapping at the shore, he told me about his life, the pressure of being the Caldwell heir, the expectations that weighed him down like chains. "I'm supposed to be perfect," he said, his voice raw. But with you, I don't have to be. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But Marcus's threat hung over us like a storm cloud. Rumors started spreading, whispers about Ethan slumming it with a nobody Omega, about how he was throwing away his future. I overheard them in the library, saw them in the glares of his teammates. Even my roommate, Jamie, a beta who usually stayed out of drama, warned me to be careful. People like Marcus don't let things go, he said, and they don't like seeing alphas break rank. I tried to ignore it, but the tension was suffocating. Then, one evening, it exploded. I was leaving the library when Marcus and his pack cornered me in the parking lot. The air was thick with their alpha pheromones, oppressive and menacing. Marcus stepped forward, his smile cruel. "You think you're special, don't you?" he said. "Ethan's just playing with you. You're nothing but a distraction." I tried to push past, but he grabbed my arm, his grip bruising. "Let go," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Before he could respond, a roar split the air. Ethan's motorcycle screeched into the lot, and he was off it in a heartbeat, shoving Marcus back with a force that sent him stumbling. "Touch him again," Ethan growled, "and you're done." Marcus laughed, but there was fear in his eyes. "You're making a mistake, Caldwell. You think your family's gonna stand by you when they find out." Ethan didn't answer. He just took my hand and led me to his bike, his touch anchoring me as my heart raced. We rode to the lake, the wind whipping past us. And when we stopped, he pulled me into his arms. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I didn't want you caught in this." I looked up at him, my chest tight with emotions I couldn't name. "Why is it like this?" I asked. "Why can't we just be?" He cupped my face, his thumb brushing my cheek. "Because the world's not ready for us. But I am. Noah, I'm ready for you." That night, under the moonlight, he kissed me. It was slow, tentative at first, then desperate, like he was pouring everything he couldn't say into it. I melted against him, my fears dissolving in the warmth of his touch. For the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere right there, in his arms. But the world wasn't done with us. The next day, Ethan's father, Richard Caldwell, summoned him to the family estate. I wasn't supposed to know, but Jamie overheard the lacrosse team talking. Richard had caught wind of the rumors, and he wasn't happy. "They're saying he's got to choose," Jamie told me, his voice low. "His inheritance or you." My stomach dropped. The Caldwells were Willow Creek's backbone, old money, old power. If Ethan defied them, he'd lose everything. I wanted to believe he'd choose me, but doubt gnawed at me. I wasn't worth that kind of sacrifice. Was I? That night, I waited at the lake, my nerves fraying with every passing minute. Ethan was late. When he finally arrived, his face was pale, his eyes haunted. "My father gave me an ultimatum," he said, his voice hollow. "Marry an Omega from a suitable family, or I'm out. No money, no name, nothing." I felt like I'd been punched. "What did you tell him?" He looked at me, his eyes fierce despite the pain. "I told him I'm in love with you." The words hit me like a tidal wave, stealing my breath. Love. No one had ever said that to me. Not like that. But before I could respond, headlights pierced the darkness. 2 cars pulled up, and Marcus stepped out, flanked by his pack. Behind them was Richard Caldwell himself, his face a mask of cold fury. "Ethan," Richard said, his voice like ice. "Get in the car. Now." Ethan stepped in front of me, his stance protective. "I'm not leaving him." Richard's eyes narrowed. "You're throwing away your future for this." "Nobody." I flinched, but Ethan's hand found mine, squeezing tight. "He's not a nobody. He's everything." The air crackled with tension. Marcus smirked, clearly enjoying the chaos. "Told you, Caldwell. You can't have it all." Richard's gaze shifted to me, and I felt the weight of his power and alpha who'd built an empire on control. "You," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "You think you can take my son from me?" I wanted to shrink away, but Ethan's grip gave me courage. "I don't want to take anything," I said, my voice shaking but clear. "I just want him to be happy." For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then Richard laughed. A cold, bitter sound. "Happiness doesn't pay the bills. Boy. Ethan. Last chance." Ethan didn't hesitate. "I choose Noah." Richard's face hardened. "Then you're no son of mine." He turned and walked back to his car, Marcus and the others following like vultures. As the engines roared to life, Ethan pulled me close, his heart pounding against mine. "I'm sorry," I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. "I cost you everything." He tilted my chin up, his gaze steady. "You're worth it, Noah. You're worth everything." The days that followed were a storm of consequences. Ethan was cut off, no money, no family, no legacy. He moved into a tiny apartment above the diner, working shifts to make ends meet. I helped where I could, picking up extra hours at the library, but the weight of his sacrifice pressed on me like a stone. Every time I saw him smile, I wondered if he regretted it. The town didn't make it easier. Marcus and his pack spread lies, painting Ethan as a traitor to his status, me as the Omega who'd ruined him. The glares followed us everywhere, but Ethan never wavered. He'd hold my hand in public, kiss me in the diner's parking lot, daring the world to say something. Each time, my heart swelled, but so did my fear. How long could we keep this up? One night, as we sat on the lake shore, Ethan broke the silence. "I'm not going back," he said, his voice firm. "Not to my father, not to that life. But I need you to know something. Noah. I'm scared too. Scared I won't be enough for you." I stared at him, stunned. "You're enough," I said, my voice breaking. "You've always been enough." He kissed me then, slow and deep, and for a moment, the world disappeared. But reality crashed back the next day. Marcus hadn't given up. He cornered me outside the library again, this time alone. "You're dragging him down," he sneered. "You think you're his mate. You're nothing but a phase." I wanted to fight back, but his words hit too close to home. What if he was right? What if I was holding Ethan back? That night, I told Ethan I needed space, my voice trembling as I lied about needing to focus on school. His face fell, but he nodded, letting me go. It broke my heart, but I thought I was saving him. For a week, I avoided him, drowning in my own doubts. The loneliness was unbearable. I missed his scent, his laugh, the way he made me feel like I could be more than what the world saw. Then, one rainy evening, he showed up at my dorm, soaked to the bone, his eyes blazing. "You don't get to decide what's best for me," he said, stepping closer. "I chose you, Noah. I'll keep choosing you, every damn day, until you believe it." Tears streamed down my face as I threw my arms around him, the rain mixing with my sobs. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Scared I'm not worth it." "You're worth everything," he said, echoing his words from the lake. "We'll figure it out. Together." And we did. Slowly, painfully, we built a life. Ethan got a job at a local garage, his hands stained with grease, but his smile brighter than ever. I graduated and started teaching art at a community center, pouring my heart into every sketch. The town never fully accepted us, but we found allies: Jamie, who became our fiercest defender; Millie, who gave us free coffee and a safe space; even some of Ethan's old teammates, who started to see him not as an alpha, but as a man. One spring evening, a year later, we stood at the lake again, the place where it all began. Ethan pulled out a small, hand-carved wooden ring, his hands shaking. "I don't have much," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But I have you. Marry me, Noah." I laughed through my tears, nodding before he could finish. "Yes," I whispered, and he slipped the ring onto my finger, kissing me under the stars. Our love didn't change the world, but it changed us. In a town that tried to break us, we found strength in each other. Ethan wasn't the alpha everyone desired anymore. Was mine, and I was his. And that was enough.